Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of, well, First Impressions I suppose is the unofficial name for this sub-series. I am joined today by the one and only Lord of the Rohirrim enthusiast who's seen it twice in a row now. Yep. It is Martin MacAlistair. Martin, hello. Welcome back.
Thank you. What this sub-series should be called is Podcast Done in a Car.
What is it? Carpool karaoke? Yeah, podcast karaoke. Yes, once again, pulling the curtain back a wee bit. We are indeed in someone's car in the middle of Glasgow.
Right, can we say, let's clarify, it's your car, not just someone's car. It's not just like...
Well, now you got me sweating.
It's like, okay, I don't know whose car we're in. We went to open some doors. We're in a car. It's time to talk about podcasts. Let's do it.
So, yeah, we are just out of Lord of the Rohirrim, the latest, can't believe I'm saying this, but the latest Lord of the Rings film, which I have to say, it was pretty good.
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah, no, spoilers. Thank you for listening. No, really, I was surprised because before we go into, what we thought about this film and everything, what did you think about this? See, when it was first announced, when people were saying, oh, there's going to be a new Lord of the Rings film, it's going to be entirely anime, they rolled out the red-haired anime character, and you thought, what did you think about that?
I had no idea what was going to happen. Like, I was so confused of why was this film made, and I haven't seen it, pulling the curtain back a wee bit. I've seen it twice now, yesterday and today. Not because I'm like super obsessed with Lord of the Rings, just because I arranged 2 times in a row, but I had no idea what to expect. I still don't understand why this film was made. Again, I really liked it. I just don't know what the thought process was, so that was my first impression of it, and it's still my impression of it. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, again, mirroring what you're saying, I genuinely thought, why are they making this? Because at the time of recording this, the first 2 seasons of the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, is it?
Yep.
That's out on Amazon, and I have to say, I tried it. I really, really did. Could not get into it. Like, I tried the first couple of episodes. Maybe it's one of those things, you have to watch the whole thing, the extended DVD and things, before you get into it, but it wasn't for me. So when I heard they were kind of doing this franchising thing where they were like, we're going to do this whole anime film, it came out of left field, because do you remember the trailer for this where it showed you clips of the 2 towers?
Yes.
And it was like, before Rohan, before the 2 towers, there was, and then they kind of transitioned to Lord of the Rohirrim, which again, it was really, you thought, it is interesting. There's a lot of stories to tell there, a lot of clans, a lot of things like that. And then, again, when it wore off, I think everybody in the comments were going, huh?
And especially because the Lord of the Rohirrim is like 2 paragraphs and like the appendices of some book. It's not even anything of any note apart from Helm Hammerhelm, the main guy himself. He's mentioned a lot in the books because Helm's Deep. Apart from that, none of this is ever a big part of the story. They've just picked something at complete random and gone, this.
It's like, when you open a book, like the Argos catalogue, you just press your finger, you go, oh, I want that thing. This is their thought process. I think they just said, this would be cool. But yeah, I have to say, it's been kind of stewing for a while, and I'm going to be honest, the marketing for this was terrible, was it?
If I hadn't been married to a Lord of the Rings obsessed person, I wouldn't have known this was coming out. And also, it's only out in cinema for like a week, 2 weeks. I read a comment on Reddit, and this was a really funny. This came out the same day in the States as Craven the Hunter did. And they're calling it like the reverse Barbieheimer. Where it's like, how quickly can you clear out 2 cinemas in one day?
What would you even call that? Rohirrim or something? Crayhem or I don't know.
Yeah, just the marketing's been terrible. But it's a hard film to market because anime's pretty niche. And Lord of the Rings, for all it's popular, is still kind of niche in itself. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like, people aren't going to go see Lord of the Rings because it's Lord of the Rings. They want to go see Hobbits and the do-do-do-do-do-do. And like, they want the things. It's like Star Wars. Like, people aren't rushing out to see Solo.
Yeah.
Whatever, it has to be themed.
I mean, it is true, to be fair, because even with myself, the only Lord of the Rings obsessed person I have in my life is probably Andrew, to be fair. And even then, I think we're all in a kind of niche circle of, we're avid Lord of the Rings fans, but at the same time, this film, it kind of came out of nowhere. Then the hype, the marketing, there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting all these adverts in places like, TikTok, X/Twitter, saying things like, oh Lord of the Rohirrim's coming out. It's like, so no, next week. Like, where were you?
I think obviously...
We're Gondor.
Obviously what happened was all the great marketing for Red 1 took over.
Clearly, yeah.
And everyone's been talking about Red 1, so nobody's gone to see.
Yeah, bulky.
Love
Santa with muscles.
Loved
J.K. Simmons.
I love Red 1, by the way.
Oh,
I know this isn't the point of this, but I want everyone to know this. My film opinions don't count for anything because I love Red 1.
Do you know, a slight side tangent, but I remember Adam and I were doing I think it was the episode for Terminator Genesis where J.K. Simmons is in it.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, oh, look up a picture of J.K. Simmons now. And I'm like, oh my God, he looks like a buff Santa. I did not know it was for Red 1. But anyway, that's next week's review, clearly. But yeah, this film kind of shadow dropped, to be honest. I mean, there was a wee shadow, but nevertheless, it kind of slowly came out. And the only reason, shout out to Andrew here, but the only reason we are sitting in a car right now, thank you, Andrew, the reason is because Andrew was saying, oh, why don't we do that for the finale of the year? And I was like, oh, absolutely fantastic idea. I can't wait for it to come out in streaming services. To which, of course, I soon realised, and so did my wallet, yes, it is indeed out at the cinema for this weekend, really. And it's not a lot of time, because I'm going to be honest, when I said to you, do you want to go out and do you want to watch this film on I think it's the 13th that came out here, and I was like, oh, do you want to go watch it? You were like, no, I can't because of reasons. And I was like, oh, that means we can't see it at all. So I genuinely didn't realise it was for the whole weekend. That's how poor this has been. Honestly, it's been it's been terrible. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It has been absolutely horrific. But then we came to see it.
Yep.
And I'm going to be honest, despite the haters, despite the lukewarm reviews, and this is kind of my general overview, but I would personally say it actually is a fair effort. It's not a bad film. It's not anything like the original trilogy, because let's face it, I'm going to be honest here, if you're making anything Lord of the Rings, it's going to be compared to that high standard. You're not going to get a film where they're going to be like, oh, it's as good as Lord of the Rings. Like, no way.
No.
Never.
That's kind of the curse of Lord of the Rings. No matter everything they've done since those films, everyone's going, it's good, but it's not Lord of the Rings. That will be that franchise forever. Anything that comes out of Lord of the Rings, people are going to compare it to that, no matter how good it is. And I think this film has a lot riding against it. I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen it twice. I actually enjoyed it more the second time. But this film's got a lot riding against it in that you have to pretty much bang on the middle of this Venn diagram of people that like anime and people that like Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? So I think if you really like Lord of the Rings, and I'll tell a quick story, but if you really like Lord of the Rings, you're probably not going to like this because there's a lot of in it that goes up against the low of Lord of the Rings. So spoilers for later in the film, but there's a bit where one of the characters in it who is super buff and really jacked and kind of my hero fights a troll one-on-one, bare-fisted, and kills it. And the guy sitting 3 seats along from me stood up, left, and never came back.
I love that because I have to say, I noticed you'd gone out at one point in the film, and then I saw a couple of seats along they had left. And they just never came back, and I was like, I wonder why, but I didn't realise it was that scene.
That's the exact scene you left. And I have no idea why that was the cutting point, but that was it.
Oh, that is so funny.
So yeah, if you like Lord of the Rings, you're probably not going to like this. And if you're obsessed with anime, you're probably not going to like this. You know what I mean? Because it's not like a very anime.
Yeah, so that's my kind of main gripe with it, I have to say. Like, overall, I'm going to say I enjoyed it. The thing about the criticisms for these films, because I have to say, a lot of them saying about the animation and things like that, some of it's warranted, but then, of course, you've got the stereotypical people saying, oh, why is it an anime girl? Girl boss and blah, blah, blah. All the rubbish that you would usually get on the internet. So you're kind of looking for a balanced opinion on it. And then when you go in and actually watch it, you go, well, actually, for the most part, it is relatively balanced. I mean, there's obviously embellishments because it's anime. And to be honest, if they didn't do this, and I think this is something, ironically enough, I think I brought up in the Grinch episode of all this, where I love it. See, when an animation actually takes advantage of the fact it's animated, because the amount of films that we've watched and, it's animated and they try to apply real life physics to it. They don't really say...
Everyone's got suppose.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to say, I kind of appreciated it for that at times.
I actually wish they'd gone further. That's like my biggest thing was like...
Wow.
Because they had this whole... So the start of the film takes place in Edoras and they made it look exactly like it does in the Peter Jackson films.
Yeah.
But then it gets burnt down. I kind of wish they'd just taken the opportunity at the start of the film to make it look different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like there's characters in it who are splitting images of the characters in Lord of the Rings. Rings. So there's one guy that looks a lot like Bernard Hill. The guy that when they fight the Ophalonts, there's the war people on that, and they have the exact same painting, the exact same weapons and all that as the people in Lord of the Rings. And I get they want to do it because they want to tie in with Lord of the Rings, but I actually wish they'd done more weird stuff, because you might as well. My sort of two highlights of the film was the Ophalon fight scene at the start, because that was very weird, very Ghibli-esque, you know.
Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, pretty much. And they get the watcher in the water thing to fight it at the end, and it doesn't look like it does in the film. It looks kind of weird and kind of like a Final Fantasy creature. And my second sort of favourite scene is when she meets the eagle at the top of the mountain. Yeah. And again, that's very much presented like a Ghibli-esque kind of it's so overbearingly huge, it looks ridiculous. You know, but that's what I want from anime. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm not here for things to look normal. I want it to look cool.
Yeah, because I mean, going slightly back to what I was saying about the Rings of Power, where a lot of it, I think people are put off because, I think because the main characters are elves at times, so they're doing the more fantastical things, which doesn't always translate well to live action. Whereas for this, of course, you've got so many highlights in this film, and they are so cool. Again, as I said, maybe not the best that Lord of the Rings has put out, but it is a really, really decent watch. And to go even further back to talk about what this film's actually about, is, as you were saying, is a very obscure bit of lore where they say, oh, we've got the son of King Helm, and such a cool name. King Helm, and he's got his two sons and his daughter who's a bit wild and she doesn't play by the rules, the kind of stereotypical thing.
Yeah, brave.
The only, that's the only thing I would say I don't like about that character is just the hair. And I know this sounds really weird to say, but if they were going to make her, red-headed, make her ginger. Don't tease us like that and say, oh yeah, she's the only character with red hair. And I know a lot of people were complaining for completely different reasons, going, oh, there's no red hair in this, lineage and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, to be fair, maybe Helm had red hair. Maybe the mum had red hair. I kind of get that, but at the same time, you probably had to have someone standing out.
My thing would be, I actually wished more of the characters looked like her.
Yeah.
Like, that would be my thing, because I think everyone else was too grounded in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's only one other character that I think stands out at all, and it's in terms of like that kind of thing, and it's the old woman that's like the bookkeeper, and she looks like I don't want to always keep saying Ghibli, but that's like the core of most of my sort of anime knowledge, and she looks like one of the Ghibli witches. She has this like big bulbous nose.
I was going to say it's a nose.
And she's under this hood, and like she's the only other character in this whole thing that's like, oh yeah, you were made for this, that you weren't written from a set of notes somewhere. You were completely drawn up from scratch kind of thing.
If you don't like this character, then you're going to have a bad time, because the whole story centres around her, where we are following her story about her father essentially getting into a brawl with one of his lords that swears fealty to him and then says, oh no, actually, you suck. And then he sucks up. Yeah. And then, of course, the brawl happens. He ends up, and again, spoilers going forward, but eventually he ends up getting killed. Not the king, the guy he fights with. And then that sparks a war between an outcast versus the family of Helm, which, it's a pretty basic setup, I have to say, like a pretty basic revenge plot. Some people might not think it's very Lord of the Rings-esque, but you know what? As a side story, it does its job. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stupid decisions, I would say, but nothing that's too outlandish, if you know what I mean, in terms of the plot.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that kind of like Star Warsy thing, where it's like they just do a really basic plot so you can play about with everything else.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of the great thing about this film, that it's so basic in terms of its plot that it can afford to do those kind of things, that it can decide to have a fist fight with orcs. And I just want to point out, I don't know where the budget went in this film, because to be honest, I think the budget probably went to animating King Helm's titanium balls, because he is by far A, one of the least Lord of the Rings type characters, and B, one of my favourite characters of all time now. I was howling at the beginning because, as I said, it begins with all the lords coming to see him, and then one of the lords from, is it Dunlin, comes along, and he's big and fat and gross. The film's words, not mine. And he comes over and says, oh, I want the throne, and then he punches this guy 3 times. He does not flinch, and he punches this guy once, and he is down for the count.
I'm going to say something, because this is what I picked up on the second time watching it, is they do in one throwaway line mention that he's got ancient blood, and I think that's supposed to be like the Numino, like what Aragon is, but Aragon was not built like this man. This man is like the personification of Nad Win. It's
like, what I find funny later on is you see him beside other people And I kept whispering this to you throughout the film. I went, what an absolute unit. But the scenes kept coming, you know. He punches that guy, one shot. He ends up getting killed. Oh, not killed, sorry. He ends up getting shot.
With like 10 arrows and he's fine.
It's alright. Boromir could never, you know. This guy is a hero. He is a judge. And then later on, we get quite possibly two of the best scenes in the film. One where he fights the orcs, of course, and he fights the massive troll. What I loved, and I don't know if you heard me gasp in the cinema, was when he beats up the other orcs, and I'm like, oh, that is cool. And this guy leaps in the air, and this guy bombs him, he goes, whoa, and he breaks off the horn and everything. And what I was howling at was, again, to get back into Helm's Deep later on, they have to run there, and as soon as he grabbed the door, I thought, there is no way this guy's gonna solo. He kind of doesn't, but I mean, he probably could.
Well, the reason he dies is that he's so wide he can't fit through the door like that.
Because look at his daughter. His daughter's like a young woman compared to him.
He opens the two doors of Helm's Deep, maybe like a foot wide, and so his daughter fits through, and he's like, no, I need to open like another 6 foot. My shoulder's so broad.
You're gonna have to call him about it. I'm gonna have to take a round trip.
He's so wide.
Oh, he's so bulky.
I would have loved to see him just walking around Helm's Deep, trying to fit in with the normal geography of that place.
See, honestly, after jumping, he probably could have taken like 2 jumps to get over the wall. I mean, this guy is built differently. And I was absolutely howling. See, and again, spoilers, but eventually when we see him laid to rest, he's not even laid to rest in like a dignified way. He's got that All Might pose going on. In fact, you know what it is? It's, you know, that meme that keeps going around / scene from Dragon Ball, and then we're off the heels of Dragon Ball, man. But you know that one from the last film, Wrath of the Dragon, where it's like Super Saiyan 3 Goku and he's got the fist in the air? That's the exact pose. The guy's frozen to death on a pile of bodies, and he's got a smile on his face. And I nearly had tears in my eyes. I was like, why do people hate this film?
People who hate this film haven't watched this film. That's all I'm going to say.
This is peak cinema, if you haven't seen it. Anyway, that was the end of the review.
There's not much else to talk about.
Yeah, no, jokes aside, I thought he was one of the highlights, and I suppose this is a good time to talk about the characters. I mean, Wolf, or whatever his name was, he was a serviceable antagonist. He was there, kind of.
My favourite thing about Wolf is that he makes all these terrible decisions, and it's just because he's really angry. Which I think really funny. Like, I like that as a plot point. Any plot hole that you can come up with his plan is just because he's an idiot.
Yeah, because I love, is it General Teague or something? Yeah. When he's like, sir, it's clearly a trap. I accept your fate.
That happens 3 times in the film. Like, every time that general goes, don't do this one thing, he goes, do you know what I'm gonna do? This exact thing.
He does as well. It's just like, I see what you're saying, but
thanks, my right hand man. Shut up.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
Wolf is like who I actually am when I think I'm Hammerhelm.
I mean, even the stature, I couldn't believe it. He was holding him up with one hand. At the very beginning, of course, Wolf gets angry that his dad was, laid out flat by this beast of a man, and he just grabs him by the throat with one hand, just pulls him up as if he's drinking a keg or something. I was like, who is this guy? This utter, as I said, unit of Rohan. That's what this film should have been called, Unit of Rohan.
Units of Rohan.
See, as soon as he died, the film should have just ended there, to be honest. But in all seriousness, going back to the characters, you've got Wolf, Hera. I actually liked her, I have to say. I thought she was a really good character, and a really good main character as well, because I think obviously people seeing this as an anime, they saw the red hair, they thought, oh my god, she's going to be, this Wonder Woman of thing. She was just a normal person, to be honest. I've got no notes. Do you?
Yeah, no, it's great. Protagonist starts off, like, she gets like the wee sort of hero's journey thing, like she doesn't want to be part of the crew, and eventually has to, and she rebels against nobility and accepts it. It's the usual stuff, and it's good. Like, again, it's basic plot. She's probably got the most basic through line of the whole film, but she's just there to
have a good time.
Have a good time and do sick action sequences.
Because that's the thing that I have to admit, although there was like a lot of over-the-top action, things like that, which, again, glad they took advantage of that for the anime. There was nothing too unrealistic about any of the action, to be obviously other than Helm. Obviously other than that. But, for the most part, the actual grounded action was really good. And as you were saying, the Shield Maiden, she was great. Was that a child? that followed them around. Because halfway through, or towards the end of the film, I was like, is he meant to be a hobbit?
So my wife thinks it was supposed to catch people to think it was a hobbit. You know what I mean? Like that kind of branding thing. Yeah. I kind of agree with that. I think because he was done up to look a bit like Samwise with the blonde hair and
quite broad and stuff. No offence. Yeah, because there was a lot of moments that I genuinely don't know how to feel about with that, where there was a lot of callbacks.
Yeah.
You know, there was obviously the Howard Shore music, there was the name drops at the end.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's go for that. They did like a double duty cameo at the end, so they had...
I was really surprised at that.
Yeah, they had Chris Lee's archival voices as Saruman, and he popped in and he basically said one line which they'd got from a video game recording or something.
It's like the Mr. Burns. Hello, you're quite good at running, Rohan. You should probably ignore that. But sorry.
Never would have made that connection, but I love it. And then straight afterwards, she's like, the main character's like, oh, wow, I got this letter from a guy called Gandalf for it. I actually don't mind either one of those cameos. I just don't like them back to back. You know what I mean? It feels like you didn't have to do both. And I'm not a massive fan of like the archival audio gimmick. And I know it's nice to pay tribute to Chris Lee and stuff, and I do accept that, but I just wouldn't have bothered. You know what I mean? I just would have done the Gandalf reveal, or even just put the letter on the screen, and you didn't have to say my name. One of those where it's like, oh, that's a wee funny nod, but that was like, it was two obvious ones back to back, and I didn't enjoy that as much.
No, it reminded me of the end of The Hobbit. Not the end where it's actual Bilbo in the Hobbit hole and things like that. I loved that. But it's, you know, the go find Strider and...
the sting of the music hits the exact moment. That's awful.
And then go find Saruman, like with Saruman going, leave Sauron to me. You know, like that kind of thing. You're like, oh, we know what's going to happen. I wish she just, with her shield maiden, I wish she just kind of rode off into the sunset kind of thing. Because I really did enjoy both those characters. But yeah, now they're tied to the wider Lord of the Rings. It's a bit like, and again, you know, I'll keep this rant very brief, but it's kind of the problem that I have with a lot of Star Wars stuff nowadays, where they have to link it to a legacy character. You can't have the Mandalorian going off without running into Ahsoka Tano or, you know, any of these other, I know it's a spoiler for the Mandalorian, but it always has to link to somebody, and it's a bit similar to this, and I thought, you know, maybe he bumped into Gandalf in the pub, I don't know, but I'm totally with you there. I do feel as if it was a little bit off. Also, it was a little bit awkward because it was clear they only had that one line of audio. It was something like, I'm proud to serve you. And then that was it. And there was that awkward pause at the end where you're like, huh.
That was the pause for applause. So people could go, wow, it's Chris Lee.
Did you not hear the guy in the back?
That was just me. That was me popping off.
I was going to say the guy who left, he came back with his friends. Look to my first coming. I was like, oh no. Can we talk about the animation though?
Go for it.
I'm a bit mixed, I have to say. I think, and I don't know how you feel about this, seeing it twice now, I think that initially, see the landscapes and the setting, gorgeous. You could slap that on a wallpaper. Honestly, you could frame it and put it up on your wall. But the characters, do you know what the characters felt like? It felt like, you know those old cartoons where it was like an interactable part of it? It always looked different because obviously it was like a layer on top of it, but when it wasn't interactable, so it's like you kind of knew what door they were going to open before they did. And that's what it kind of felt like with these characters, that they were imposed in these gorgeous landscapes and things like that.
I think it kind of felt like a lot of anime films where the budget never gets divided equally. Like, it never does with anime stuff, and especially when you see it on like such a big screen that we did, and it was like every so often a character standing in the background, they just have no face. I know that's what happens in anime all the time. You know what I mean? If their faces can't be as detailed far away, it just looks like two dots now. But like, it's so off-putting when they're so big in front of you. You know, if you watched it on a tiny telly, I'm sure it'd be fine. Like if you watch it on your phone or whatever, but on the big screen. If I split that film in half, Subway Surfers in the bottom looks gorgeous. You know what I mean? When a film's so big, the main character here, she gets a scar on her face at one point, and it's there for like the next 10 minutes of film.
Oh yeah, and then it disappears.
And it disappears, but it also disappears within that 10 minutes, on and off again, because the camera keeps zooming out and losing it, or so the scene keeps zooming out. That kind of stuff really gets to me. Like and again, it's very common in a lot of anime films. I've seen some of the older animes do it all the time. I hope maybe they get the chance to brush through it again in post. I don't know if they will, but I know some films do that. But yeah, there was a lot of drops in quality, and particularly right at the start, I thought it was a really weird way to put your best foot forward. But after that that intro sequence with the CGI mountains and all that, and it zooms in on her for the first time, and her face is like two dots and a smile.
Even before that though, I genuinely, when they zoom into the map and everything, they do the lovely narration and things, and then I genuinely at the beginning I was like, is this actually real life mountains or things? Like initially I genuinely couldn't tell when they were going through, and then that whole illusion was spoiled ridiculed by showing the arse crack of two eagles flying by, and I was like, oh no. And as I said, Rohan, you're doing great. Keep it up. Helm's Deep or the Hornberg, whatever you want to say, all of the places were absolutely fantastic. The setting, as I said, absolutely gorgeous, but it's just a shame for the characters. And again, I don't think they look bad per se, but I don't know if it is just bad animation or it's just because the background's so good. Do you know what I mean?
It's kind of that stylistic problem, isn't it? Like, it's when a lot of anime uses CG elements. I've always felt that.
Yeah.
In some anime, just for example, off the top of my head, Attack on Titan gets away with it because everything does look weird in that universe. So when they do have something CG, it's not terrible. Maybe the best example is Fullmetal Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
They have like the bit with Envy turns into this big beast, and that's all CGI, and that's brilliant because it's supposed to look creepy and weird, and this is supposed to look quite realistic, so it looks terrible. You know what I mean? It's so much more off-putting when you get that animation gap. Yeah, no, I definitely felt it in this film.
That's something that I have to say, my partner and I recently, when we've been watching anime, and there's that kind of blend of CGI and traditional animation, and you think, did you really have to do that? It's really, really off-putting. And again, it's not the worst at times, but it's noticeable enough. And they always use it for the people in the distance, like the hill tribes and things like that, when they're standing outside the walls, they're like, oh, look at us. And I genuinely thought they were going to do, the Game of Thrones thing, where they all ride out and then you just see nothing of the battle. But I was like, oh, thank God, they've got a blue colour palette this time. Yeah, it was a bit of a hit or a miss.
Can we talk about the Siege Tower? I want to talk about this because this is phenomenal.
Yeah, all I was saying, can I just say, when I saw what the Siege Tower actually was, I turned around to you and I said, they are so lucky that this works out because, my God.
Now, I'm going to say one thing, and a lot of people who have seen this film are going to say the Siege Tower doesn't make any sense. Why did they not just use a catapult?
Or a ladder.
A
very long ladder.
And I'm gonna refer you back to my earlier point of which this guy's a dumb idiot. So the Siege Tower that he makes is basically
a ramp.
A giant ramp that goes up for absolutely ages and then falls over, and it should break. There's no logs that are strong enough to hold whatever this thing is. It is the funniest thing, and it's so not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings has catapults and trebuchets at some point in the world. I don't know, maybe they don't get invented till like 10 years after this film, who knows? But
no, they did. So remember they had like the big arrow.
Like a ballista.
Ballista, that's it.
They got one of those, but you know what I mean? Like, they don't have like a trebuchet, so they can't siege, maybe. But like, this was not the best call of action. And like, the thing that makes me laugh about it so much is like, during the last fight, it gets set on fire and it's just done. It's like, that was like 8 months of production, like, thrown down the drain.
Yeah, people died to make this. It's like, that was your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking this through my head, because obviously they couldn't blow it up because that was like a relatively, I can't believe I'm nerding out here at this, but it's a relatively new invention by the time the Uruk-hai are there, and the Uruk-hai are very industrial, so it makes sense. And then I thought, well, maybe they just didn't have, the ladders and things, because again, mass-produced industrial, they didn't need hundreds of ladders, they needed a few lads. What you doing? And a couple of archers to keep them off.
Yeah, but again, like, I'm going to just say that this guy who made this plan was a complete idiot, so actually I'm fine with it.
Yeah. All I'll say is, bar the main character, which is the ironic thing, because usually in something like this, the main character is the one that's like an extreme. They're either too good at their job or they just suck completely, whereas they're kind of in the middle. Because one scene that I did love was when she confronts one of the traitor lords, and the horse gets an assist kill because it hits him once. And then I was laughing, thinking, oh, wouldn't it be so funny if that horse just hit him again? And it does. I was like, oh my God, wow, they actually did it, the mad lad. But with the king, he's, the complete other end of, I cannot be beat by a mortal man. No man can kill me. Whereas on the other side of it, you've got this dumbass. And again, it's like, it's supposed to be a tragic, poor children who grew up together and then they drifted apart, unrequited love, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just, eventually, I get what they were going for, but he just turns into a dumbass. That's
what I love him. No, I'm game for this. Honestly, more villains need to be dumb.
He seems like the kind of henchman that you would slap. You know that stereotypical, it's like, maybe we should just build a giant ram. Quiet, you. Just slap him on the back of the head.
He needed the nemesis. He was the henchman left on his own.
See, if he was just left to his own devices, what the hell would he have done? I genuinely do not know. This guy, I am surprised, can tie his own shoelaces.
He probably couldn't.
I am the king of roller. Oh, careful. Yeah, that was his big grand plan. His machinations over 8 months.
His general was like, we should just buy a car. But no!
What I was howling at was, I was like, this is going to be a really cool tower. You know, a bit like, I know it's not a tower, but like Groans from...
Yeah, I was expecting something like that, like a battering ram, or even like the tower that they have is at Helm's Depot. I can't remember if it's Helm's Depot.
There's one at Minas Tirith as well. It's like, the
ramp
4
comes
walls.
down. Yeah.
That's what I thought, because that's a traditional siege tower. It's got ladder up the middle, you've got the 3 walls there. I totally haven't played loads of medieval Total War.
Yeah, I was expecting that.
Yeah.
Like on wheels and they push it.
Yeah, that would have been so much easier than getting the bulk of your army to pull a rope.
And also kill one guy for the sake of it. He was trying at the top, and like, well, I don't know what his game was, but good for him.
And where was the rest of the army there? Because what I was laughing at was, see, whenever something went down and you saw 2 guards or something like guiding people out, it's like, they must be the happiest soldiers in Rohan. Be like, thank God I'm not in the front line, so let's go, kids, let's go. That was rather silly. And again, there's the kind of spectrum here. There's good silly, and then there's bad silly. Good silly is Helm.
Yes. I would actually say most of this film was good silly. I've actually got a slightly controversial opinion on this, what I'm going to say.
Oh, do tell.
I wish this film was slightly longer, which is a very unusual take for me, because I hate films being long. I most famously think Oppenheimer was too long. But there was a couple of characters who came in and then were suddenly part of the crew and it was never really mentioned. So like the wee Squire boy, he went from just being there to like, he actually seemed to be running part of the Helm's Deep by the end of it, and he was like the chief navigator for some reason.
God, I wish that were me and my job. Upwards of mobility.
And then the wee old woman that was like the
Shield Maiden,
No, not the one that was the
Ghibli Nose.
Yeah, Ghibli Nose, the keeper of the books woman. She went from being an annoyance to get a big heartfelt hug at the end. There was a time spent where you guys made friends, and there was just a couple of bits like that where there was some jumps in the character progression, the scenes and stuff. I was like, this film actually could have either been a TV show or 3 hours, and I actually would probably have got more out of it. It was just stuff I wish was there.
No, I actually agree with you, I have to say. And sorry, just before I go on to agree with you, one thing I want to talk about with the Ghibli woman is, see when she comes in and she's like, oh, the snows are very low. And it's like, you're the only one who lives here.
Do you not think of topping them up?
Yeah. Have you been stuffing yourself? Like, get a broom and start sweeping. Jesus.
Really don't need to be putting this fire on in summer.
I have to admit, I saw that big wall of logs. It's like, that won't last the winter. I'm like, what are you fueling? Hell's Moving Castle? It's like, come on.
I also have like no concept of how many logs does it take to fuel a castle.
They looked at this massive wall, about maybe 4 helms, I would say, tall.
I mean, I would have heated 2 helms easily.
Yeah, and they're like, this won't be enough for the winter. Here's what you do: block the windows, gather in the same room.
Right. So I appreciate that there was some stylistic choices made. And my favourite one was Helm, when he was on his sickbed, was put next to an open window, but like, it's not like a window as in glass, it was like a stone hole and there was just snow blowing in at one point. It's like, put the blanket around the guy. Like, moving back from the window slightly. Yeah,
that was a choice, I have to say.
I mean, I know he's so muscular that he doesn't get feel the cold, but even still, just bring him in from the window. Like,
I mean, that's how he dies. He ends up freezing to death. With the All Might pose. Now it's your turn, Hera.
He wasn't cold though. It was physics stopped him, not him.
The plot stopped him. But no, I totally agree with you. I genuinely, after watching this, I would actually say that I would love to see more of it, either of this film or of other stories in this format, because I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to see like a Gondor story? Don't know about a Mordor story, because we've already had heaps of that with the One Ring and the whole Lord of the Ring. But, there's so much potential there. And again, I'm not saying it in the case of, let Warner Brothers milk it for all it's worth. But at the same time, if they've got a story to tell or they just want to explore that, then go for it.
I think that's a big thing. And I really like that this wasn't, I know that we did mention about Gandalf and Saruman being in it, but I did like it wasn't a direct prequel, sequel, tie-in, whatever, because the trailer was playing in the cinema for Mufasa, and that's something that just doesn't interest me at all. No. Same with all these Star Wars films where it's like every Star Wars thing seems to take place in the same 100-year gap, even though it's an infinitely big universe, and all the Avengers stuff, it's all tied in. I like things to be familiar, but I don't need it to hold my hand the whole time.
Yeah.
And this was like a good mix of, okay, no, I recognise that, I can point and go, that's that thing that I know, but it's its own story. I don't need to have remembered Lord of the Rings to watch it, you know, and there's all sorts of things, and it's like, this is fine, it can stand on its own, and then we watch that film, we can completely forget about it. We don't need to know about these characters again, and that's fine. You know, and I'm happy with that, because so many of these films now, I'm like, every time a character comes on screen, I'm like, do I have to know who this person is in advance? Am I supposed to have watched 2 TV series, an anime, and a book before I got here?
Again, it's like, it would probably help if you had a basic knowledge of the Lord of the Rings universe and everything, but at the same time, it's not necessary. As you said, this is definitely a standalone film, and bar the maybe last 5 minutes of the film, you could easily watch this film and go out happy. And honestly, that's really the summary of this, that it's a good film. It's a good standalone piece of Lord of the Rings media. Was it necessary? Nah, I wouldn't say so, to be honest, but at the same time, I'm not really offended that it's there, you know, or I never really felt bored. I think that's the main thing, because the one thing that, and I think you've said this in the past as well, the one total sin that a film can do is just be boring and be unengaging, uninteresting, nobody cares about it. That is the worst thing a film can do, because it will die in people's memories, you know, no one will care about it, and then when they dig it up, they won't be bothered. Whereas for this one, it had some really memorable moments. Like, as much as we laughed about it, they had the stupid siege tower or ramp, they had King Helm just absolutely beating people with his fists, which I absolutely loved. I want to reiterate that.
To be fair, the siege tower also led to the best fight in the film as well, which is when she's wearing the wedding dress.
Yeah.
She's flying out with the sword, and she's like, the guy's like, oh, who are you a bride to? And she's like, I'm a bride to death. And like, let's go. I'm popping off in the cinema. Can't laugh. So that's who hates going to cinema with me, because I'll start getting up and shouting at the screen. I'm like the old grandma at the back.
Yeah, it's true. I could confirm. I also just saying a complete side tangent, not even related to the film, but how noisy were the people in the film? Like, I kid you not, it began with the lovely music. I don't even know what the music... Yeah, that one. For any Howard Shore fans out there, I'm so sorry. You know, the Ring theme, you know, and then it had the narration, and it had the big swelling of the music, and it was all triumphant. I wish I could say I enjoyed that bit, but I couldn't hear it over the sound of rustling papers.
It was the loudest packet of crisps ever opened.
Like, I was getting in surround sound, I was getting on the left, I was getting from behind. They're surrounding us.
I do have to apologise, because I kind of feel like added to that. We were watching it in a cinema with his electric moving chairs, so we both like reclining, and I had to go to the toilet about halfway through, and it's this really quiet, emotional scene. Here's my chair going, I start lowering it so I can get out of it.
Do you mind? Yes.
Everyone in the screen's turning around to look at me. I'm not a young man. I can't get out of a chair without getting help, man.
Yeah, that's why we have to pay extra for the cinema now. It's very ageist. Odeon fixtures. No, I'm only joking. For legal reasons, that is a joke. But yeah, no, it was so loud. Maybe it's me getting older, I don't know, but I was just like, this is loud as hell. Other than my age rants and that, what are your final thoughts about this film?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I've seen it twice in 2 days now, and I actually even enjoyed it even more the second time. Really good. It's not going to go down as the greatest Lord of the Rings film ever, because, like we said, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is 3 of the greatest films ever made. But really enjoyed it. I can see why it's a hard sell to people, but if you are in that niche that likes the same kind of crap that we do, then you're going to love this.
Thank you, Pandalorian, for listening.
Come for the Lord of the Rings. Stay for the Hammer Helm. I was going to say stay for Hammer Helm, but I mean, stay for the crap. It's pretty good fun, and I would probably watch it for a third time. Not tomorrow. I'm going to take a break. Don't have to see it free sequential days in a row.
On Monday, of course.
Yeah. There's a Japanese version of it with like Japanese audio, so I'll probably watch that when it comes onto Netflix or whatever.
Yeah, that's something we didn't actually mention. I have to say, overall, the English dub is pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Is it right, Miranda Otto, the one who plays Eowyn's in it?
Yes, she's the narrator.
Is she the narrator?
And the 2 orcs were Merry and Pippin.
Were they? Yeah. Oh, that would explain why they were so Scottish. Because I was like, they are the most Scottish sounding orcs ever. But I loved it. Yeah, my Scottish bias showing that. But no, the voice acting and everything, that was good as well. Honestly, yeah, I would recommend this film in all seriousness. I think it was such a good effort on everybody's part. And as you were saying, it might not be the best Lord of the Rings film, but at the end of the day, you know, you can't really hold a candle to the original trilogy. I think it will take something really special to smash through that nostalgia nostalgia and everything to usurp it. But at the same time, you know, if you're an anime fan, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, as long as you don't mind orcs being punched in the face by a big muscly man like My Hero Academia, pop off. Honestly, it's a fantastic film, and I cannot wait to discuss this film with Andrew.
I feel like he's going to be the complete opposite of this take.
Oh, I cannot wait to hear what he has to say, genuinely, because I think as of recording this, he is going to see it with his wife, so it'll be so interesting to hear what he has to say. And yeah, that will indeed be the last episode of 2024's run of Chatsunami. So Martin, thank you so much for coming all the way out here into my car in the middle of Glasgow.
Thank you, and I'll probably have to go rescue my car from the parking wardens that are coming round. So
yes. So before we wrap up, where can the lovely listeners at home, not sitting in their cars, find your content?
No matter where you are, except if you're driving, but if you are sitting in your car and your car is stationary and the engine is turned off,
yes,
you can find me across all the social medias, but I mainly post on Instagram at Martin MacAlistair. But you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, X, Blue Sky. I think that's them all. There's a lot of social media these days. Find me across those, and also if you are in the Glasgow area, you can see me wrestling, and I'm expanding more and more, so just keep an eye out, and I'll see you soon.
And by that tooting, as you can hear in the background, that's how we love Chatsunami.
Toot if you love Chatsunami.
For legal reasons, do not toot randomly. You love Chatsunami, because I swear to God, it'll be like there's been an uptake in the Glasgow of people tooting for Chatsunami.
Hashtag toot for Chatsunami.
No, don't get that trending. No, do not toot for me. But yeah, if you would like to check out more of our episodes from 2024, as well as our upcoming review of One of the Rohirrim, probably a little bit more subdued, but we'll probably no doubt have a hilarious skit in there, then you can indeed check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. And as Martin was saying, we're also on all the social medias. We're on Twitter/X at ChatSunamiPod. We are on Blue Sky as well at Chatsunami. We are on really everything: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, pretty much where your grandparents post, I suppose. Yeah, Blue Sky especially. So yeah, feel free to check us out over there. But I just want to thank our amazing Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster, Sonia and Ghostie. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And if you would like more behind the scenes content and more tooting for Chatsunami, then you can check us out over our Patreon page, patreon.com/Chatsunami. But until next time, thank you all so much for listening to this, and thank you so much for sticking with us this year in 2024. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, stay hydrated, and a very happy new year.